Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision again. Just kind of giving it a little office update. Kind of slowly getting things organized and decorated. This is a buck I got last year. Really big-bodied whitetail, pushed a little over 300 pounds. So yeah, I don't shoot too many bucks, but at the same time, when the opportunity presents itself, I will take them. Just kind of getting my reloading setup a little bit more refined, or have a little bit more storage space. At the same time, this is also a discussion. One of the things I always talk about is always picking your cartridge for your game. And this is nothing fancy, but this is kind of a basic diagram. Let me pull it where I can get a little bit better lighting. It kind of gives a diagram roughly of what you're looking at, whether it's a deer or an elk. So place that right there. So you have your heart region and your lung region. You have your shoulder. This is the head over here. You have your spine, which comes up the top, dips down behind where the shoulder blade would be. They talk a lot about making a high shoulder shot because it hits through there, but it's right next to the major nerve centers and will shock the body into death real quick. And so when choosing a cartridge, you want to make sure that you're selecting one that has the capacity to not only punch through bone, but you also want one that has a good shockwave event inside the body cavity. The smaller your caliber and smaller your case, the better your shot placement has to be. You get less room for error. And here's the thing, regardless of the cartridge you use, if you make a bad shot, it's a bad shot. You can't really make up for good shot placement. However, if you have something like 270, 308, 30-06, you can hit anywhere in this kill zone. Anywhere. And it'll do the job. 243 is same thing. It's a really good one. But you're going to have a hard time with the 243 if you try to place it through the shoulder. It's just not that heavy duty of a bullet. Now, you can get really good quality bullets like a Nosler Partition, and they will go through and they'll do their damage. But typically, you want to, with the smaller calibers, is to avoid as much bone as possible. Ribs aren't an issue. They'll go right through them. But I prefer to use something like the 270 and 308, 30-06, and a lot of guys would prefer to hunt with even 7 Rem mag or 300 Win mag, because if your shot is off for whatever reason, it could be that the deer or elk doesn't present a perfectly broadside shot. Like, this is based upon the idea that you have a perfect broadside opportunity. That doesn't always happen. A lot of times the deer can be angling quartering to or quartering away. So that bullet has to be able to work regardless of the angle, which is a key factor when you're trying to select your first cartridge or your average cartridge. It couldn't not even necessarily your first. There's a lot of guys that have multiple cartridges and multiple rifles, but typically you'll end up finding that they go back to the same one over and over and over again because they've experienced that particular cartridge is highly successful for their specific needs. And so for me, again, going back to where we live, which is a little bit more wide open, I like having the 270 because it's very flat shooting, but it also hits hard. So if I had a quartering 2 shot, I don't have to worry about this. As a matter of fact, one of the deer that I shot this season was at 150 yards, and it was a straightforward chest shot. And that's actually fine because it's not that far from the front of the chest into the heart. So that's an easy kill for a lot of things as long as the bullet construction can hold up, because there's a heavy cartilage and rib plate that meets up right here where the ribs come down off the back and they meet up with the chest plate, and that hooks right up into here. And so you get this little slot between the ribs where you can sneak a bullet in. And if you're shooting something lighter, like a 22 Creedmoor, you can place your shot in there, that's fine, but that heavy chest plate has been known to break up pretty hefty bullets. It's not a light plate. Quite often, those plates can be an inch thick. So it's like armor. And on a big-bodied whitetail or mule deer or elk, that's a lot to punch through. And so if you can make that shot, though, you're going to make a successful hit. There's a lot of bleeding in there. And not to mention the shock force when it comes through, it creates a wave effect. And so that ends up basically cavitating the chest and just basically shocking the system to where the animal goes down instantly. So, but going back to what I was talking about, yes, I had a doe, and she was a big mature doe at 150 yards, and she was looking straight at me. I had a good prone position, so I was laying down, and I was able to put my crosshairs right on the chest, and I touched it off. And going back to, again, this is the load that I was using. Let me pull this out for demonstration. This is a 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range. So it's a good heavy duty bonded bullet. The bullet, when I shot, went through that chest plate, went through the heart, went the entire length of the deer, and exited out the left hip socket. I'll say that again. It went the entire length of the deer and exited out the left hip socket. And I measured from where the hole went in to where the hole exited. And the bullet wasn't tumbling. It expanded and it cored through. 36 plus inches of penetration at 150 yards. Yeah, to the guys who say that 270 is not enough for elk, that's not true. If on a big mature whitetail, you can place over 36 plus inches of penetration, and that bullet keeps carrying through, on a good broadside shot, even on a large bull elk, I have zero doubts that this load that I'm holding in my hand right now has the capabilities of going in, causing tremendous trauma internally, and exiting out the other side. Because elk are not 36 inches wide. So keep that in mind. What you want to look for are bullets that have a good heavy-duty construction. You don't want bullets that are what they call basic cup and core or frangibles. You want bondeds, monolithics, or they call them hybrids, like the Federal Terminal Ascent or the Trophy Bonded. They're a hybrid where the bottom half of the bullet is solid copper all the way down to the bottom of the shank. The top half is a lead core that is designed to expand, and it's bonded. They are designed for the hunting application. These aren't target bullets. They're hunting bullets. And that's kind of a thing. You got to build for your specifications. I build for mine. You should build for yours. If you don't know somebody, then, the other thing too is you can always look up somebody. There's gunsmiths will build custom loads for you. Is it going to be cheap? No. But once you have an idea and you have a good build, it is definitely well worth it. You'll see why. So that's why I choose a 270, because it's flat shooting. It does good penetration. It does tremendous trauma internally. But what I've noticed too is I don't lose a lot of meat, especially if I stay off the shoulder. If you don't shoot in this zone, but you come back over here where you're shooting in the second half of the lungs into the back of the heart, the deer at most goes 50 yards and piles up. They don't hold up against that kind of internal trauma, which is exactly what you want. You don't want them to be able to make it far. Shot placement is key, but the second most important factor is what that bullet is capable of doing when it hits the target. You need a good bullet construction that can go through, cause the trauma, and exit. Because 2 holes bleed faster than 1 hole. So keep that in mind when you're selecting your loads.